We have goals to actually spend our money during our life. We want to touch all 7 continents with significant amount of time, not just like be in Antarctica for like 12 hours. We want to be there. We want to see as much of Europe and Africa as we can. We've already been to 5 countries in South America. So we want to travel and go spend our money. And
welcome, millionaires and future millionaires. You're listening to the Millionaires Unveiled podcast, the show where you'll hear the stories and interviews of everyday millionaires. We'll unveil their decisions, their strategies, and their portfolio allocation. Now to your host, Jace Mattinson.
Welcome back to another episode of the Millionaires Unveiled podcast. This is episode number 431.
This is the podcast where everyday millionaires spill the beans on their stacks of green. We're your hosts, Jason Stacy, ready to bring you the unscripted tales of wealth, warts and all, because who needs a script when you're rolling in dough?
Join us as we dive into the net worths and asset allocations of regular folks turned financial titans. It's like Cribs, but with fewer gold-plated toilets and more practical advice.
We promise the only rare edits are to be kid-friendly, so you won't hear any naughty language, just lots of cha-ching and maybe a sprinkle of do-re-mi. So buckle up, tighten those purse strings, and get ready to laugh and learn with Millionaires Unveiled.
Got a great episode today for you, but before we get into that, if you'd like to be on the show, send us an email, millionairesunveiled@gmail.com. We're always looking for new, great, entertaining guests willing to share their stories. Pretty soon we're going to have to start calling out some more professions. I feel like we almost had a professional athlete on. We definitely need to get one on soon, especially on the heels of the most amazing World Series I've ever witnessed. I think I'm not a huge baseball fan. I really get into it kind of around the playoffs and the World Series, but man, this one had me on the edge of my seat almost every single pitch. So crazy finish. So would be cool to have a professional athlete on. We've got, this is kind of the time of the year where all the major sports, at least in North America, I know soccer's big, huge internationally, but not professionally, at least not quite as big in North America. But between hockey, basketball, baseball, and football, we kind of had a convergence there for the last couple of weeks here of all the sports having games and stuff. So it would be fun to have a professional athlete, tennis, soccer, football, basketball, anything. Be awesome. But we almost had one on the hockey front. Been going back and forth. Hopefully we can still maybe get him. But at any rate, there are plenty of other professions out there. I know that we have not quite had as many guests on, or as many guests as probably we would have expected. Today we have one of those. We have a CFP. I think we've only had one, maybe 2 others on the show previously. And this one's pretty unique. He is kind of an expat living in Puerto Rico. I know it's not quite expat territory, but for some tax reasons, tax purposes, and some things that he does, and we'll get into his strategy there. And kind of got a crazy story. He started out umpiring. That's kind of why I brought up the baseball a little bit, but also was a pizza delivery guy and had a divorce in his 30s. So, became a millionaire, then lost it, split it, etc. And now has built it back up. So he's got a net worth of 3.9. I'm sure a lot of people will resonate with some of the things that he's gone through, and possibly even some of the decisions that he's made as of more recently to kind of structure his retirement and, kind of make some efforts and some things in his, with his goals and his planning around spending down his wealth and enjoying it with the things that they enjoy, and talks about the 5 pillars of that. So without any further delay, let's get right in the show with Mike. Mike, do you want to just give us about your background or what you're up to now?
Yeah, Mike Milligan, certified financial planner. I own a company called One Oak Financial. It's a nationwide financial services company that we build one-of-a-kind financial plans for your one-of-a-kind life. Matter of fact, I wrote the book on it. On Amazon, you can find my work of literary masterpiece called the One-of-a-Kind Financial Plan. It walks through the biggest expense you'll ever have in your life, how to reduce the fear and anxiety of actually retiring, how to control the expenses and the risk of investments the right way, how to deal with the end of the life and long-term care, and then ultimately how to leave the ultimate I love you letter. We call that the One-of-a-Kind Financial Plan. It's really coming off the shelves, or I guess ending up in boxes now. It's not really coming off the bookshelf anymore. It comes in boxes all across America. And those little brown boxes from Amazon. I thank you, Jeff Bezos, for wanting to create the best book company in the world. You're helping make me a little bit wealthier man. But ultimately, that book is not about me. It's about the end reader, because I built it to really unpack like what a fiduciary really is. I let people inside of like what corporate Wall Street is, because I used to work there. I let them inside of like profit first companies and how they can actually beat and navigate that. And ultimately, it's a do-it-yourself book. You can read that book and actually build a plan for yourself, but ultimately you're going to want to pick and choose a good advisor that focuses on taxes, because that's the biggest expense you'll ever have in your life. And there are ways to control that expense. And so, I'm up to that, and I've been doing it for 30 years. When you include my academic, I have a podcast, Ideas by Mike. I'm in the process of writing a second and a third book now. One's called Retirement Deja Vu. One's called Retirement Chi: How to Build a Vision for Retirement. I was just on CNBC last week. I'm going to be on Fox Business in a couple weeks. We're just out here living life, trying to be one of a kind, which is my life motto.
That's awesome, and I can't wait to get into the details about your career and 30 years in the financial planning space. You've got to have some unique perspectives on some things. But before we do, what's your net worth today?
Conservatively, it's $3.9 million.
Nice. And how is that broken up?
So a little more than a third is real estate. We own our commercial building where our headquarters is in Norfolk, Virginia. My wife and I own real estate, personal real estate, where we live in both Norfolk, Virginia, and San Juan, Puerto Rico. And then so real estate, we value our business at 2 times EBITDA, which is really in a financial services space is really conservative. I mean, it's really companies right now we're selling at 3.5 or 4 times, but we only value it at 2 times because we think there's going to be a tsunami in the future of people selling these businesses, because most financial planners are old. So we're being very conservative there. We have retirement accounts of just under $1 million. 90% of that's in Roths, by the way, and then we have cash. We have a couple of private placement deals that we've invested $100,000 each in, and then we have a little bit of crypto. So very, very, very small amount of crypto. It's 2% of our total portfolio, but that to me that's a hedge. And so that's how we're made up. And we have some goals that they're not number goals. Like my wife and I are not looking to get to like $10 million or $12 million or $100 million. We have goals to actually spend our money during our life. We want to touch all 7 continents with significant amount of time, not just like be in Antarctica for like 12 hours. We want to be there. We want to see as much of Europe and Africa as we can. We've already been to 5 countries in South America. So we want to travel and go spend our money and live. I mean, I say it all the time. I mean, like our company, One Oak Financial, that's part of our assets. That stands for one of a kind. It's not some tree like in your backyard. It stands for one of a kind. We want to live one of a kind. And so we actually kind of live what we preach in our business and how we build our net worth.
That's cool. I want to get into a couple things. So let's start probably on the Roth first. You've got a good chunk that invested in the Roth. Talk to us about how that's kind of come about, and maybe if you don't mind, kind of give our listeners kind of the age range just so they can kind of give some context around how you've built that Roth up.
So I just turned 49 this year, and when I was my early years of working in Wall Street, I used the 401k, I used pre-tax. And so built some money up there in those accounts. I actually went through a divorce right at the end of my 30s, so I lost a decent chunk of that then. And so we've been building up. But now, like, I contribute as owning our company, right? We have a retirement plan where we can contribute into Roth. We currently are Puerto Rico residents, so I no longer can contribute to retirement plans in the United States, but I do conversions. And so my job is, or my path is to have all of our IRA dollars into Roths through conversions. I got 3 more years to go. And so now, I mean, I'm paying conversions at lower rates because most of my income is taxed in Puerto Rico. It's not taxed in the United States. So I'm paying the conversion at a 22% bracket right now on the federal side. But to me, I'm 49. I'm probably not going to need the money for 20 years. I'd rather have it compounding and growing over the next 20 years, where I pay no tax in the future, because I feel like taxes are going to be higher, 20 years from now than they are now. So like I'm trying to get to a space where not only is my investment portfolio growing by being highly diversified in things that I can control, but I'm also trying to get out of the tax code as much as possible.
So you glossed over a huge concept that I want to go back to, and you and I have this conversation, and it's not a big deal, but I know for some of our listeners it may be. So talk to us a little bit about when you talk about the conversions, the tax implications. You're doing that now. Most people probably don't hear about potential conversions till their retirement age. Walk us through strategically how that's benefiting you, and if you don't mind, can you tell us when you started contributing? Was that when you first got your first job? You started contributing to the traditional retirement accounts?
So yeah, my first job was in 1999. Roths were just established in 1996. So like Roth 401ks really didn't become a thing until 2006. So I started contributing pre-tax in 1999. I didn't start my first Roth IRA until 2004. The limit was like $2,000 that you could put into it at the time. A Roth IRA is it's something that everybody wants, but everybody doesn't understand, right? Because a Roth IRA there's two ways to get money into a Roth. You can contribute money to it, or you can convert retirement money that's already pre-taxed by paying the tax now and putting money in. Now, a contribution can be either directly into a Roth IRA, it can be backdoored into a Roth IRA, or it could go into like your company's 401k plan as a conversion. Now, if you want to contribute directly to a Roth IRA, there's some income limitations, right? And people's like, well, I cannot contribute to a Roth IRA because I make too much money. Well, that's just hogwash, right? That's the Southern man in me right there. It's hogwash, because there are other ways to get money into a Roth IRA. You could do a transaction called a backdoor. That's where you make a contribution to a non-deductible IRA. So you make a contribution where it's non-tax deductible. And then what you do is the next day after you make that contribution, and by the way, that contribution limit this year is $7,000. If you're under 50, over 50, it's $8,000. So non-deductible contributions, and then you just convert it the next day. Now, all the CPAs out there are going to be like, Mike, well, there's this thing called a pro rata rule, and there's this and there's that. I mean, there's all these things where you could say it's not as easy as I'm making it sound. Guys, it is easy as I'm making it sound if you work with a real professional. Because the people up in Wall Street and like your typical financial planners, typical financial advisors want to manage your money, and they really can't manage 401k money. That's why they tell you to put your money in your IRAs. But guys, if you're trying to do like Roth strategies and you have a 401k, you should have all of your IRA money that is not Roth in that 401k, because then there's no pro rata rules, right? You can do that backdoor every day. And so I've been doing before I moved to Puerto Rico, I was doing the backdoor for the last 7 years. All right. Now, in your company plan, somebody will say, wow, man, your CPA may say, put your money into your 401k pre-tax, because if you put it in Roth, you're going to pay tax on it now. Well, remember, a CPA's job, and I mean, I love CPAs, but their job is literally their job is for this tax year to take the rules that they have this year and to make your taxes as low as possible. They don't project taxes out. Most CPAs, there's some good ones out there, but most CPAs don't project taxes out for when you're 65, 75, and 85. They're more worried about this year, because their job to do a good job is to record the lowest amount of taxes this year, and they'll say, I did my job. What you need is a tax planner on your team who's actually going to look at taxes that you pay over your life, because the benefit of the Roth, whether you contribute into it or convert into it, whether you go backdoor, whether you go through your employer plan, the benefit of the Roth is you get that tax deferred growth forever, and then when you take the withdrawals, they're tax free. And there's even some times that you can take money out without penalty before you're 59 and a half, right? For college education, to give as gifts. There's so many things. The Roth is the most durable, flexible tool that ultimately is going to save taxes in the long run. And it's going to be the place where every dollar in that account is yours. It's not the government's.
Yeah, I appreciate you taking some time to explain that. I feel like, we don't have a lot of those conversations, I guess, on the show. It's not brought up very often, but I think what you just kind of described is extremely powerful. There's case studies out there, and we don't need to get into the detail of this, but there's people out there that, have tens of millions of dollars in their Roths, either because they started earlier, because they've done some things with, private company, investments and whatnot. But I know Peter Thiel and some others are kind of famous out there, but it is one of the most powerful vehicles, in my opinion, as well. Just from a planning standpoint and flexibility standpoint, just because how many different things you can do with it.
I mean, and you're right. I mean, the Roth is just a tax strategy. It has nothing to do with investments. So you could, yes, you could go buy NVIDIA stock in a Roth IRA. I'm not recommending that, right? But you could buy NVIDIA stock. You could buy an ETF. You could buy real estate. That's hands off, right? You go into a self-directed Roth buy. You could buy access into private equity. You could buy crypto. Roth is just the tax strategy. The investments are really unlimited.
Yeah. So talk to us a little bit. You've got a pretty well diversified kind of between real estate, investments, your business. Was it always kind of that way, or how did it evolve into kind of the bucket and the legs that you've got now?
So I'm a traditionally trained financial advisor. Stocks and bonds, right? 60-40, 80-20, risk-based, age-based, right? But when I came into this industry back in 1990, working with clients, what I realized is that the stock market does not perform at 8 to 10% every year. It is, and what I also learned as I learned more about different investments is that the people that I noticed early in my career that had 7 and 8 figure net worths, they got that net worth through real estate and owning private businesses. That's where wealth is created, because the greatest investment you have, or the greatest tool you have to build wealth, is your time and your ideas. And entrepreneurs, business owners, they're willing to take greater risk on themselves than they are on something they cannot control. And so I've watched all these guys that were buying 60-foot mega yachts, and they were driving, $200,000 cars, and they had Rolexes, and they were going on 14-day trips every quarter. I was watching to see what they had, and they were, and this was in 2000, right? I mean, they were making money by buying property and flipping it into new homes, right? They were seeing problems, and they were creating solutions, and they were turning that into an LLC, and they were making 6 figures a week or 7 figures. And so, I mean, yes, you can get rich slow with a stock portfolio, but what you have to do to get rich slow with a stock portfolio is you have to keep feeding it every 2 weeks. You have to keep contributing to it, and you have to stay there. But what I saw people building wealth fast, it was building a business and then exiting out of it, building real estate, exiting out of it, right? And then just looking at market trends and being willing to do what other people are not doing. I mean, listen, the only place in the world that people don't buy something on sale, like when it goes on sale, is they don't buy assets when they're on sale. Remember, I mean, think about the financial crisis in 2008 when real estate plummeted. Who bought those real estate that went down? Well, people that have 8, 9 figures of income or net worth now. When the stock market went on sale in this year, right, March and April of this year, when it dropped 20%, those were assets. Stocks are assets, and they were on sale 20 to 25%. And what were people doing? They were getting out of the stock market and buying 4% treasuries, because they were scared that it was going to go down 30 or 40%. When stocks go on sale, when real estate goes on sale, when crypto goes on sale, meaning that it's gone down in value, that is the time, as Warren Buffett says, when other people are fearful, be greedy. And when other people are being greedy, be fearful. When it goes on sale, you buy. Because listen, when on Black Friday, this year on Black Friday, the day after Thanksgiving in the United States, people are going to run into Walmart and run into Best Buy, and they're going to buy all these TVs that are on sale. But if on Black Friday, Nvidia was down 40%, people would be like, I'm not going to buy that. I'm selling. So you just have to be, you have to always have a little bit of, we have cash. We have 6 figures of cash set aside. And if something goes on sale, we're going to buy it. Right. But we're going to buy an asset that's on sale. Right. And then another way to like build wealth, and what I saw really wealthy people doing, is they were not scared of debt as long as that debt had assets tied to it, because they knew the power of arbitrage, cash flow versus, cash in versus cash out. And I learned that early on. And I mean, since then we're using a lot of that. Now we're using a lot of different techniques. We just bought into our kind of first private placement deals 3 years ago, and we're very happy with them. Right, we're into a medical facility in the Houston, Texas area. We're now into like some offshore real estate deals that have already paid us back. And there's a lot of offshore real estate deals, by the way, guys, that are not worth going into. But there are some that are really worthwhile going into. You just have to do your due diligence and know how to see a real deal versus a scam.
At this point, how do you think about where your next dollar goes between putting more in, say crypto at 2% that's part of your portfolio, or putting more into real estate or a private placement deal, or, into your cash bucket? I mean, how do you think about that at your age and at your net worth now?
Well, I don't try to time the market, right? We're at a point where we're still dollar cost averaging into crypto. We're still dollar cost averaging into a brokerage account. So every month we have automated some savings that go into crypto, into our brokerage account. But as Puerto Rico residents, we don't have access to throw money into a retirement plan right now, like we did when we were U.S. based. And so we're dollar cost averaging in brokerage and dollar cost averaging in crypto. The cash position we're building is, we're always looking for, at this point where we are, we're looking for like some longer term deals that are more, that the projections show like more explosive growth. But they come with a little bit more risk, because we feel like we've got like our basics covered, like our stock portfolio and our Roth is covered. Our real estate portfolio, we have real estate that is, our commercial property is cash flowing like crazy. Yeah. So, we're at this point looking for something that has more risk, and we're looking for something that has some explosive cash flow out there. And so like on the private equity side, we're always looking. And we're always looking to get into deals with other people who are looking for capital. We're not going into $100 million deals. We're going into more of the $3 to $5 million deals, where we can take a pretty significant position, 3 to 5% of that deal, and move forward. But there's great opportunities. I mean, the one thing that's happening right now globally is like the value of the dollar being lower than it was earlier in the year. It's creating some opportunities out there that if I don't understand it completely, but I know that there's a lot of money flowing into the U.S. markets right now, because it's because people can buy our assets in the U.S. market cheaper than they could a year ago. And so I watch the flow of money. One of the things I don't do is, I don't have time to be glued to a computer to do options trading. I don't have time to watch crypto every day. And so I stay pretty I stay pretty well disciplined in like the automation of those systems, or what I'm using there. But I mean, we're always looking for opportunities to buy into new startup companies, new private placement deals.
Yeah. So you said that you don't have a net worth go, so to speak, but you've got kind of this lifestyle, visiting 7 continents, et cetera. Talk to us a little bit more about that and how that's evolved.
So my wife and I have like 5 major pillars in our life. Like, we want to have good food, we want to have good drinks, we want to have good sex, we want to have good friends, and we want to travel. Those are like the pillars in our life. And right, I think people like need to have a vision for what their life want to be, because if the goal is money, you're going to be dissatisfied at some point, right? A major crash is going to happen. It happens, in every market. And if your sole purpose is just to accumulate money, you're going to find yourself disappointed at the end. And so we want to find out how money can help us accomplish our 5 major goals. The travel part for us is the more we travel, the more we realize we haven't seen anything in this life, right? Because you all of a sudden see something that you think's the most beautiful thing in the world. Like we did that when we were in Patagonia in Chile 5 years ago, and we thought, man, this is the most beautiful place on earth. And then we end up in the Dolomites in Switzerland, and we're like, holy cow, is there anything more beautiful than this? And then we end up in the Scottish Highlands, and the Scottish Highlands are some of the most beautiful places in the world. And then we end up in Sweden, and you see the Northern Lights. So I mean, like we just have seen nothing. I mean, we visited 63 countries, and most of those countries we've spent multiple days in, but we've seen nothing in this world. This world has so much to offer, and the more you see of it, the more you realize that our little bubble that's called our world, wherever we are today, it's not as vast or as big as what our world, our part of the world, is not as big as we think it is. And so that's why we get out and travel, right? We spend. I mean, I'll take, by the time this year's over, I mean, have been on 160 different flights. Some of that's for work, but a lot of that's for traveling because in the first quarter of this year, January to March, I was traveling 10 weeks, and 9 of that was I was working while we were traveling. And we were in 15 countries while we were doing that. We just believe that uh, the more you see, the more relevant you're going to be in your profession. But the more we're trying to lead our kids. We have 3 kids, and our 3 kids, like my 20-year-old, she's already been to 11 countries. She spent 9 weeks in Cambodia and 6 weeks in Thailand and 10 weeks in South Africa. That's the kind of people that I want to raise in my life. But really, it's the kind of people I want to be around. People that want to travel. People that have a goal bigger than themselves. And that's what we live by. Like the one of a kind life is getting out and seeing as much of this one of a kind world that we could see before we die, because that day's coming sooner or later.
Yeah, that's awesome. Appreciate you sharing, Mike. Well, let's wrap up with some rapid fire questions. What's the most expensive pair of shoes or pants that you've purchased?
Most expensive shoes. I got a pair of Louis Vuittons, like the tennis shoes. 13.
Yeah.
I think it
What
was
are those
13. The pair I got was $1,320.
Do you wear them?
I
Or you
do.
look
I
at 'em?
do on events.
You
No,
do
no, I
wear 'em?
wear them. I wear them.
All right.
Yeah. The interesting things about jeans, I will tell you this one, is I'm a Wrangler jeans guy. Like I
Okay.
wear Wrangler jean pants, and I mean they're like $30 or $40, and I'll wear them for 20, 30 times, and when they wear out, I just throw them away and order the next pair. I mean, I just know what I like. They fit me, and I don't know if they're good enough for cowboys, they're good enough for me.
Yeah, Wrangler jeans and Louis Vuitton shoes. All right, I like it.
It's really a weird combination, but that's me.
Hey, I get it. What about the most expensive meal out?
We were in Vienna, Austria, and we were at a Michelin-star restaurant, and I think the bill was like $4,700 for the 2 of us.
Was that including some pretty nice wine or?
It was. I think
Okay.
it was a bottle of champagne and then a bottle of wine. Surprisingly, the thing that was the most expensive there was a cheese course. We had some cheese that
It was like
we
a
had some
20
cheese.
course cheese course or something.
Yeah, it was, and it
Cheese
was like
plate deal, yeah.
we're like it was. The second most expensive bill was actually in Lima, Peru. It's at a restaurant called Central, where it was the number 1 rated restaurant in the world, like 2 of the last 5 years, and it was one of the more exotic meals we've ever had. It was like a 15-course meal, and I think that was like $3,800. But I'm pretty sure that was the wine. It wasn't the food.
Gotcha. What about the most expensive trip or experience?
The most expensive trip, it probably was. I'm not. This is not a good one. That'd be a good one for my wife to say because I just experienced the trip. I pay for them and I know what the total trips are. Probably was our 22 days down in Peru and Chile because we did Patagonia. We did Santiago, Chile. We did Machu Picchu. We did Rainbow Mountain, And when we did those, we didn't exactly stay at the Holiday Inn Express. So that's not my wife. My wife is amazing, and she's very frugal, but not when we travel.
Gotcha. Good deal. What's a key lesson you learned from childhood?
Count every penny, count every dime, count every nickel. My grandmother taught me that. She was not a very wealthy person or a well-educated person. She's actually like who I think is my hero. But she taught me to kind of value money the right way. You can actually take Tabasco sauce and clean a penny and make it look brand new again. We actually did that when I was 10, 11, 12 years old. And so it was just make sure you know where your money is at all point. And with that, you can live the life that you really want to live.
What's the craziest thing you've ever done to earn money?
I delivered pizzas when I was in college, and it was a town that I was not very familiar in. It was a Little Caesars franchise, and I mean that doesn't sound crazy, but like to me it was, because I mean I would drive up to somebody's trailer park or an apartment where you're not really supposed to be, and I would literally I was delivering pizzas, and if they weren't given a tip, I was letting them know about it. I was letting them know why, because I was. I just say I was a little bit of a sales guy then. I'm not a sales guy now because I don't have to sell anything in my life to be successful anymore. But yeah, I think that was probably the one.
That's great. How did you earn your first buck?
Umpiring a baseball game when I was like 14 years old. Like the local Parks and Recreation was using high school kids to umpire like T-ball games, and that's how I earned my first dollar.
Okay. What's something you spend way too much money on but you don't regret?
Alcohol. it's that's hands down. Like there's two things I love. I love a tequila that doesn't taste like tequila, like it's so smooth it tastes like water, and that gets really pricey. And then I love really really expensive French wines.
Okay. What's a closely held belief that you once had that recently changed your mind on?
I mean, I religion. There's a lot about religion that I've once held like sacred, like it was non-negotiable. And the more I age and the more I see people that use religion the wrong ways, the more I see that religion it's deeper personal than it is corporate, right? Religion is not about a church, it's about an individual belief. And I think there's a lot of people who use religion wrong. And my mom is probably like going to flip out when she hears that, but she and I are having these conversations too. But it's I don't think religious people are bad. I think religion is used for like the purposes, like it's a corporation just like McDonald's is at some level, and there's a profit mechanism to it that is not really what it's meant to be. So I don't hold like the institution of church as high in like standing as I probably once did early in my life.
Okay. If you could have dinner with any one, two, or if you even want to go up to 4 individuals, who would it be? Living or dead?
Yeah, I mean, I'd love to have one more dinner with my granny. Like I'd do anything to have dinner with my granny one more time. She's probably my all-time favorite person to live. There's some questions that I got for Warren Buffett. Like I would love to, like I'd love to know, like, dude, how did you go from where you are now to have that billions through the stock market? Like, what insider? Like, I'd love to ask him. Like, there had to be at some point in the past some insider information you got that you know was wrong to get, and maybe it's not. But I'd love to ask the question. Love to ask. So I got some questions for Warren Buffett, and I'd love to talk to Steve Jobs. Right. If I could go and get like I'd love to hear like, dude, why did you really leave Apple the first time? And why did you come back? Because there's a story there. I know there's the reported story, but I think there's a deeper story there. I'm thankful he did come back because the iPhone has changed my life. iPads, iMacs, right? MacBooks, they changed my life. It allows me to travel and work anywhere, right, without worrying everything. But I'd love to ask Steve Jobs more about like what he really discovered when he went to the Far East. Like, how did that really inspire him to come back and want to think differently? Boy, that'd be a fun dinner. Warren Buffett, Steve Jobs, and my third grade educated Grady. That'd be
All right. I like it.
a heck of a dinner.
How old were you when you became a millionaire?
31 years old. And then at 37, I was not a millionaire anymore. That's when I went through a divorce.
Okay. Any last words of advice for somebody who's just starting out on their journey?
I mean, I think everybody needs a sounding board of what they're doing in their life, but I think you need to find somebody who has gotten where you want to go. I'm obviously in the financial planning world, and it baffles that there's millionaires, both 7 and 8 figure people, who are taking advice from employees of companies. Right? I don't get why. I don't get why a 7 or 8 figure person would work with anybody who doesn't pay their own light bill, run their own business, signs the front of the check and not the back of the check. Like, I don't get it. Like, you're a millionaire, yet you're working with an employee at a company who's there to do the bidding of their manager and the shareholders of that company. Go work with an entrepreneur who has some of the same thoughts that you have. Talk to a financial planner who actually has a similar net worth or higher than you have, right? Get something that is more tailored to who you are, not tailored to what the same person who has or get the same advice that somebody has, 1/100th of the net worth you have. And so, I mean, that's a frustrating thing to me. And I would tell you that if you're aspiring to be wealthy, don't follow one size fits all advice. Challenge the status quo and look for opportunities, because if advice is freely given, it means it's not really worth it. And a lot of times these big corporations are freely given advice that is not really worth it.
Awesome. That's Mike with a net worth of $3.9 million. Thanks for the show today.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks for listening to the Millionaires Unveiled podcast with Jace Mattinson. For more stories, investment opportunities, and information, check out our website, millionairesunveiled.com. See you next time when you'll hear from another everyday millionaire.
Welcome back to another episode of the Millionaires Unveiled podcast. This is episode number 431. Got a great episode today for you, but before we get into that, if you'd like to be on the show, send us an email, millionairesunveiled@gmail.com. We're always looking for new, great, entertaining guests willing to share their stories. Pretty soon we're going to have to start calling out some more professions. I feel like we almost had a professional athlete on. We definitely need to get one on soon, especially on the heels of the most amazing World Series I've ever witnessed. I think I'm not a huge baseball fan. I really get into it kind of around the playoffs and the World Series, but man, this one had me on the edge of my seat almost every single pitch. So crazy finish. So would be cool to have a professional athlete on. We've got, this is kind of the time of the year where all the major sports, at least in North America, I know soccer's big, huge internationally, but not professionally, at least not quite as big in North America. But between hockey, basketball, baseball, and football, we kind of had a convergence there for the last couple weeks here of all the sports having games and stuff. So it would be fun to have a professional athlete, tennis, soccer, football, basketball, anything. Be awesome. But we almost had one on the hockey front. Been going back and forth. Hopefully we can still maybe get him. But at any rate, there are plenty of other professions out there. I know that we have not quite had as many guests on, or as many guests as probably we would have expected. Today we have one of those. We have a CFP. I think we've only had one, maybe two others on the show previously. And this one's pretty unique. He is kind of an expat living in Puerto Rico. I know it's not quite expat territory, but for some tax reasons, tax purposes, and some things that he does, and we'll get into his strategy there. And kind of got a crazy story. You know, he started out umpiring. That's kind of why I brought up the baseball a little bit. But also was a pizza delivery guy and had a divorce in his 30s. So, you know, became a millionaire, then lost it, split it, etc. And now has built it back up. So he's got a net worth of 3.9. I'm sure a lot of people will resonate with some of the things that he's gone through and possibly even some of the decisions that he's made as of more recently to kind of structure his retirement and, you know, kind of make some efforts and some things in his, you know, with his goals and his planning around spending down his wealth and enjoying it with the things that they enjoy, and talks about the 5 pillars of that. So without any further delay, let's get right in the show with Mike.